Laura Miti warns, Bill 7 could destroy Zambia's electoral system. A leading political voice has issued a stark warning. Laura Miti says Bill 7 could conflate Zambia's electoral systems, creating confusion, undermining fairness, and shaking public trust. But what does this really mean for Zambians? Will your vote carry the same weight? Tonight, we break down her warning, the hidden risks in the bill, and why this issue has the country buzzing. Stay with us as we reveal how Bill 7 could change everything about Zambian elections and why experts are sounding the alarm. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of the InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. It's been quite a week here, and today we're diving into something that's got all of Zambia talking. You know, sometimes you come across a story that makes you stop and think, what exactly is happening here? Today's lead story comes from the heart of Zambian democracy itself, and it involves a warning so stark, so urgent, that it's reverberating through the halls of power and into every corner of civil society. Imagine this, a country that has fought for decades to build a democratic system where the people choose their leaders. A nation where every vote counts, where citizens walk to polling stations believing their voice matters. Now picture this, what if that entire system could be dismantled, not through a military coup, not through violence in the streets, but through a single piece of legislation? What if the very contract between voters and their elected representatives could be torn up with the stroke of a pen? What happens when the rules of democracy are rewritten in the shadows? When political parties are handed the power to replace your chosen representative without ever asking for your vote again? When the seat you fought to fill with your preferred candidate becomes nothing more than party property, a chess piece moved at will by party bosses sitting in their headquarters? And here's the most chilling question of all. What if this isn't about improving democracy, what if it's about controlling it? What if Bill 7, presented as a pathway to inclusion and representation, is actually a Trojan horse carrying something far more sinister into the heart of Zambian governance? Laura Miti, one of Zambia's most respected governance activists, is sounding the alarm. And what she's saying should make every Zambian citizen sit up and pay attention. Because if she's right, the electoral system as we know it could be destroyed. Factual foundation, background and timeline. The revelation came to light just this week, on Thursday, December 4, 2025, when Laura Miti issued a stark warning about the Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill No. 7. For those just catching up, Bill 7 has been the center of Zambia's most heated national conversation for months now. The proposed amendments were initially introduced earlier this year, promising to modernize Zambia's electoral system. On paper, the bill seeks to increase parliamentary seats from 156 to 211, introduce elements of proportional representation, and create reserved seats for women, youth, and persons with disabilities. President Hakainde Hichilema and the ruling United Party for National Development claim these amendments are necessary to correct historical exclusion and enhance representation. But there's been pushback, significant pushback. The Law Association of Zambia called for the bill to be withdrawn entirely. Civil society organizations raised red flags. Even the Constitutional Court weighed in, finding that the government had failed to meet constitutional requirements for public participation. In response, President Hichilema announced a pause to the process the day before the court's ruling, promising wider consultation. But here's where things get interesting. Despite promises of meaningful public engagement, whispers have been growing louder that Bill 7 is being primed for a return to Parliament. And this week, Laura Miti made it clear exactly why that should concern every Zambian. Ms. Miti drew a fascinating parallel with recent events in South Africa. She pointed to Duduzile Zuma, daughter of former President Jacob Zuma, who resigned from parliament following allegations that she had influenced young men to join Russia's war effort against Ukraine. In South Africa's proportional representation system, Duduzile's seat, held by her father's MK party, was simply filled by her sister. No election. No public vote. The party decided. And that, Miti explained, is exactly where Bill 7 wants to take Zambia. Direct evidence. According to Ms. Miti, the South African model allows political parties to replace members of parliament at will because, and this is critical, voters cast ballots for parties, not individual candidates. She contrasted this sharply with Zambia's direct vote system. As Miti stressed, under Zambia's current constitution, the electorate votes for individual MPs and the Republican president. She emphasized that once elected, officeholders possess personal mandates that political parties cannot easily overturn. Here's where her argument becomes most powerful. Ms. Miti pointed out that it is constitutionally impossible for a party to remove a sitting president in Zambia. She explained this is why Zambia has historically relied on by-elections whenever an MP dies or vacates their seat. In her words, the contract is between voters and the MP, she argued, adding that parliamentary mandates belong to individuals, not political parties. Now here's the bombshell. Ms. Miti warned that Bill 7 seeks to borrow from the PR model by allowing political parties to unilaterally fill vacant seats within a parliamentary term without returning to the electorate. This, she said, would treat seats won by individual candidates as though they had been awarded through proportional representation. But it gets worse. Describing the proposal as problematic, Ms. Miti cautioned that without the recall powers inherent in proportional representation systems, party leaders could exploit the provision to remove MPs they disliked and replace them with preferred loyalists. And then she said something that sent chills down many spines. She suggested that such a system could incentivize political maneuvering that might, and I quote here, place MPs' security at risk. Let that sink in for a moment. Other voices have joined the chorus. Lusaka lawyer Simon Mulnamwaila responded directly to a State House press release demanding critics point out dangerous clauses. Mwaila identified several, including what he called the abolition of by-elections through clauses 9 and 18. In his analysis, these clauses remove the right of citizens to choose a new MP when a seat becomes vacant. Instead, the political party will simply appoint someone from its headquarters. Mwaila's assessment was blunt: this takes power away from the people and hands it to party bosses. He added, it also creates a system where MPs can be expelled or intimidated because their party can replace them without facing voters. Constitutional analyst Isaac Simbai went even further in his examination. He noted that if Bill 7 is approved, each time a parliamentary seat sponsored by a political party becomes vacant, there will be no need for by-elections, as the sponsoring political party will simply nominate any party member to take over. Simbai's analysis focused on power consolidation. He pointed out that in post-independence Zambia, the president of the Republic of Zambia is also the president of the political party that sponsored his presidential candidacy. Therefore, he argued, the president effectively runs both the executive branch and his political party, giving him significant influence on major decisions of his political party, particularly on which candidates should stand as members of parliament. His conclusion? That if the by-election is done away with, the only consideration might be loyalty to the party leadership, as the electorate plays no role in replacing the MP. The result, he said, would be choosing loyalists over a credible candidate who is capable of performing. Deeper analysis. So what does all of this actually mean for Zambia's democracy? Let's break down the implications. Zambia's current electoral system is built on a direct mandate: you vote for a person, not just a party. That person represents you. If they die, resign, or are removed, you get to vote again. This creates a direct line of accountability between the MP and the constituents. Bill 7 fundamentally changes that relationship. By allowing parties to simply appoint replacements, it shifts the power dynamic. Suddenly, MPs become more accountable to their party leadership than to the voters who put them in office. And as Laura Miti pointed out, this conflates two completely different electoral systems in a way that could have devastating consequences. The concerns aren't limited to civil society. Organizations across the spectrum have raised alarms. Transparency International Zambia noted that while the bill reserves seats for marginalized groups, it also expands parliament by 90 seats, most of which will go to those already in power. They characterized this not as real inclusion but as political manipulation. Even religious leaders have weighed in. Father Chris Chandamukuka from the Catholic Diocese of Mpika called for the bill's withdrawal, arguing that it weakens the voice of the people, concentrates power in political parties, and risks weakening local governance. Professor Nick Cheeseman from the University of Birmingham, a democracy expert, wrote that civil society leaders like Laura Miti and Linda Kasanda have warned that proposed changes could enable the government to all but guarantee itself a majority in the 2026 elections. He noted widespread concern that most of the 55 new constituencies would be created in ruling party strongholds. But here's where it gets complicated. Not everyone opposes Bill 7. Some supporters argue the amendments are necessary for development, pointing to increased constituency development fund allocations and the need for more parliamentary representation in a country as vast as Zambia. The government itself has been defensive. State House issued a press release challenging critics to identify specific dangerous clauses, a challenge that, as we've seen, multiple legal experts and activists have now answered in detail. The process itself has been controversial. The Constitutional Court found the government failed to meet requirements for public participation. While President Hichilema promised wider consultation, activists like Laura Miti have questioned the sincerity of subsequent engagement efforts, describing some consultation sessions as shams with inadequate notice and poor organization. The fundamental question remains, is this about improving democracy or controlling it? Is Bill 7 genuine reform or a power grab disguised in the language of inclusion? And perhaps most importantly, what happens to Zambian democracy if a system where parties can remove and replace MPs becomes the new normal? Thank you so much for watching today's edition of InspirAfrica Official. This story is far from over. Bill 7 remains a live issue in Zambian politics, and the implications of what happens next will shape the country's democratic future for generations to come. What do you think? Is Laura Miti right to sound this alarm? Does Bill 7 represent a genuine threat to Zambia's electoral integrity, or are critics overreacting? Should by-elections be preserved as a fundamental democratic right, or is it time for Zambia to embrace a different model? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. We want to hear from you, especially if you're in Zambia and this affects you directly. Let's have a real conversation about what democracy means and how it should be protected. We'll be following this story closely and bringing you updates as they develop. Because democracy isn't something you win once and keep forever, it's something you have to defend every single day. Until tomorrow, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep questioning. I'm Nakash, and this has been InspirAfrica Official. Take care.